Now for the big one, the big three. This is where most people misunderstand what they're for. So what most people think is they will reduce their pain. Because again, they've gone down this road of exercise reduces pain. It doesn't always, but it can. It just depends on the spine that it's being used for. So when does the big three reduce pain? If we were in a consultation and an assessment and it became very clear that there was instability in the spine, and that instability was increasing the risk of pain, what the big three are able to do, they are able, because the muscles become more active, they are able to stabilize the vertebra of the spine. And it's that stability that's reducing the pain. Now, why is the stability there in the first place? Well, here's one potential example. It doesn't mean this is the example for everyone, but one potential example. They've had a history of disc bulge or herniation. They've lost some height to the disc. There is now some laxity in the disc, so the vertebra that sits on top has a little bit more wobble, let's say, which is the unstable part to it. So the passive structures aren't stabilizing it. The ligaments and the disc aren't stabilizing the spine because of that laxity. So what the big three can do is they can just heighten the activity of the muscles, which will stabilize the vertebra in place. So the muscles are essentially picking up the slack that the disc has lost, essentially. So that is one scenario where it could be useful. When might it not be useful? Well, it depends on the back pain. It depends what's driving the pain. If you've got facet joint irritation and that's driving the pain, you may find that heightened activity actually aggravates the facet joints. If the pain is coming from the hip and is going down the leg, again, if you do the big three, it's going to have no effect on what the hips are doing. So again, it's not going to really affect the problem. So we have to understand why the big three work. We have to understand essentially sort of what they do. More examples of when they might not work. When you go into flexion would be another one. So if you're sat down in a flexed posture and that's aggravating the pain, that's not necessarily going to be sorting the problem out. It could be a small piece in the puzzle, but you've got other things like neutral spine, like changing posture as you sit and spreading the load around the torso. So you've got all these other things that the big three can't do. They are just sort of they are one piece of a puzzle, and there may be 5 or 6 pieces that we need for this, and the big three is potentially one of them, but it could be a smaller one, but it could also be a bigger one. So we need to understand when and how to use it, and the only time we can do that is when we use some sort of consultation and assessment to understand the pain. When we come to a greater understanding of the pain, we come to a greater understanding of the solution. That might mean using neutral spine, brace, big three, whatever it needs to be. So it's not just a simple case like too many people suggest, go and do the big three. I've got other videos about the limitations of the big three, which is talking about this, and I would hope that McGill, he may disagree with some of what I'm saying, but I don't think he'd blanket say this is all completely wrong, he's completely misunderstood everything. I don't think that would be the case. So we have to understand why they're useful. One is it just heightens the activity of the muscles to stabilize. The other thing they can do is they can build endurance in the muscles. And because of the exercises that they do it all around the torso as well. So we've got the bird dog, the modified curl up, and the side plank. So it kind of goes all the way around the torso. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the only exercises. As I've mentioned, that book there are beginner, intermediate, and advanced options plus others. So it's very much knowing that they are one piece in the puzzle, and in some respects you can grow out of them as well. So we need to start thinking about the big three differently. We need to start thinking about knowing when to use them, how to use them, where to use them, and what else we can use as we get to the end of their life, if you will. And it's not just a case of once we're doing them, again, we've got to do them for the rest of our lives. I've been doing them for 3 years and they've not worked. I've had people that have mentioned that to me. I've been doing the big three and my pain hasn't changed. It's probably because they're not solving the problem of your pain. They are building the endurance and they're activating the muscles, but that's not what's driving your pain. If you can figure out what's driving your pain, sort that out, then you don't need to do the big three. You probably don't need to do the big three anyway. So it's having that sort of understanding. And from particularly the bird dog perspective, it helps build stability. Because you've got all fours, muscles will relax. You lift, as soon as you lift simultaneously, one knee in the opposite hand from the floor, muscles need to fire. So they build a stability. So you kind of get an initial activation, a bit like a warm-up. You get the endurance, so they're able to do that for a long period of time. And you get the stability, so they fire at the right time as well. So they're not just on all the time. They know when to turn on and when to turn off, or when to heighten and when to dampen their activity. So you get the warm-up, you get the activity, you get the endurance, and you get the intelligence to heighten activity and lower activity. But again, that depends on the person that's doing it. If the person is pain-free and they haven't got it, it's good to have the stability, it's good to have the endurance, because that's the foundation that everything else is built on. But if you're in pain, you've got to understand that they may not be doing a great deal to resolve pain. They're a great way of building the core. They can be useful to resolve pain, but not essential. So we have to come to that understanding with regards to when and how and where and who we use it on. And as I've mentioned before, if you want to start getting involved in more of this, if you've got pain, click the link below, go through to the workshop, learn more about the workshop. It's a standalone course in and of itself, so you will start to be able to learn about your lower back pain and get ideas about how you can solve it. It is also a prerequisite to the group coaching, so if you want to be more specific, go more in depth, learn more about your lower back pain and how to solve it, then go through to the group coaching after you've completed the workshop. And what that will do is set you up to be able to overcome your lower back pain.